Oh, wow. Those screens didn't even adjusted, and I didn't even
Yes, you have
realize.
to warn him when you do that.
Sorry. I don't want my video.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll turn it back on. I don't care.
Okay. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, welcome to Discussing Tabletop, now that we've got whatever we're doing solved. I don't know. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. We'll figure it out. It'll go a long way somewhere. But welcome to Discussing Tabletop, episode 40. Wow, 40 episodes in, and it is August 5th, 2017. So today
We're almost to the meaning of life.
That's also accurate. We almost have hit that number. In a couple of weeks we will. I think we're actually going to have on some interesting guests for the meaning of life. So we'll see about that.
Damn it, I'm not interesting.
You are interesting, but you are also an interesting guest. You're also a regular guest, so it counts as two things: regular and interesting. All right.
He's regularly interesting.
He's regularly interesting. Apparently not always, but regularly. Anyway,
He does his best.
He does his best. Anyway, so today we've got an interesting docket of things to talk about. First off, I want to talk about Pathfinder Society and Dungeons & Dragons Adventure League. We're going to talk about the fact that these things exist, a little bit about them, because they're both very well supported. I want to also talk about the Mindjammer system, and the fact that it is going to be... They have a version of it that uses the Traveler rules. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the Techno Bowl board game. So it's Techno Bowl, like the video game that's based on football. So it's this layers upon layers. So it's a video game-based football board game. Just to, like, really get the confusion up and running. I do want to talk about runebound, which is normally, it's a competitive board game, but they've put out a co-op / single-player expansion that allows you to play both of those. Unbreakable Bonds. And then I want to finish up today by talking about Deadline, which is a new board game that is set in the 1930s New York, and it's all about, you know, being detectives, solving murders and crimes and things like that. So that's a kind of cool one. With 12 cooperative cases. So we'll talk all about that, and then of course we'll have our normal segments, stories from the table, and gaming sage advice. So why don't we dive right in? I do want to talk a little bit about Pathfinder Society and D&D Adventure League, because they're organized play. And for Pathfinder Society, they like to put out basically books, materials on adventures. Oh god, people in the background. And so they're little scenarios you could play. Adventure League, I think they do something similar to that. They also do things along with the starter set and some of the other adventures, and basically allow you to play them together. It's a way of both going to an event and meeting people, and also then having sort of almost, again, organized play is the easiest way of saying it. So when you go to a location, there might be someone running a Pathfinder Society thing. There might be someone running a Adventure League thing that you could easily pop into. Some of them, they have you make your own characters. Others provide them, things like that. So I want to talk about it on the level of, we've talked about getting people into gaming before. You know, I want to see what you guys think about using this to get into both Pathfinder and D&D. What your opinions are on. Joe, why don't we start with you?
Well, I've never done it, so
Well, same thing with...
it seems like it would be a good idea. I mean, it's a way to be able to participate in different groups. So maybe if you haven't, one, for a new player, that would be good. But two, also for a experienced player, you know, maybe you're having a hard time finding a group you mesh with. So this would be a way to, you know, experience different groups to try to find one that you do like.
The thing is, I feel like they're also taking these things in very different directions too. D&D Adventure League is very much more. I'm going in playing, and the fact is, Dungeons and Dragons is a simpler system in a way, anyway. So it's you hop in, you play with whatever adventures they have set up. The Pathfinder Society, it actually has an in-game reference. There's supposed to be an actual, Pathfinder Society in the Pathfinder world that goes on all these adventures. So it's like, oh, I've joined with them. I'm journeying with them and adventuring.
Right, kind of like the Harpers back in D&D, in 3.5 and before.
Yes and no. The Harpers were an organization within Faerûn.
Well, I'm saying it's a combination of...
It was never an out-of-game thing.
It's a combination of the Harpers with
the adventure.
Out-of-game.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're trying to say then. I mean, at that point in time, if you're saying does have a little bit of the comparison then. Yeah, I agree. James, what do you think about these? Have you done any of them yourself?
Yeah, I've been to Gen Con the past few years, and there's a similar thing for Shadowrun, where there's stuff like that, and I've done the D&D Adventure League for 5th edition, and as an experienced player, I feel like that's it was a really good way to meet other people that are interested in the hobby and just share that common interest. It really helps you along, because if you just sit at a table with 5 strangers, it's like, hey, I don't know what any of you like, but once everybody sat down at the table where I went, we're all like, okay, we all like D&D. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? So it really led to some interesting conversations, and we did have one new player, and I think he felt immediately at home. He knew that he wanted to try this some more, and he really enjoyed the time. So I think it's a really good idea. They do put some rule restrictions on there, because, as we know, some of the feats can be a little bit broken, but they try and keep that to a minimum.
Yeah, which is a good thing. Keeping some of the craziness down to a minimum. I agree. So, I think they also restrict things like magic item creation, which I guess is up to your game master whether you're going to allow it or not. I know it's always been a mixed bag for me in doing it, because you never know how that's going to end up, unfortunately.
Well, 5th edition doesn't have as much magic items as previous editions had anyway.
Yeah, they opened themselves up in an interesting place that they are a little easier in a way to take care of that, which is good, but it's also a little bit of bad. I mean, that's one of those balancing issues of 5th edition. That's just a discussion on it in and of itself. The way that they've changed things around. There's advantages and disadvantages to it, especially for those of us that have played the systems. I mean, magic items became very reliant within 3rd and 3.5, and even 4th to a degree, which wasn't in the earlier editions. So I'm glad they did step back, but I don't know if they took it too far or something. That's most my my discussion on it. It's an interesting balancing act. But getting back to the topic at hand, I mean, I had a chance of talking to people earlier this year when I went to PAX South and talked to them, of someone from the Pathfinder Society and someone from the Adventure League. And it is very interesting how they do have very good similarities. They're trying to get people to play at events or locations of the games, trying to do small adventures and stuff, throw your characters together or have pre-made ones, as I said. And I don't know which one would be better in a way, because, the Adventure League, I feel, is like 5th edition. It's simpler, It's pretty much just they have a dungeon master at a location running a game, a couple people sign up for it. On the other hand, the society scenario, this is Pathfinder Society, they have tons of scenarios, that they run through. And I feel like they feel more like both you are out of game and in game a member of the society, almost, you know.
Right. Well, the nice part with with it having an in-game function too is it kind of explains and allows easier for like random characters to pop up like that, because it's like, oh, I was sent by the society to help you on this mission.
That's very true. That's very true. The society could be a good excuse for why a bunch of people are coming together and adventuring. It is an excellent way of, basically handling some situations. And story-wise, just basically saying, like, okay, yeah, we're going on all these adventures together. And maybe a character needs to switch out. Maybe someone can't be in this one. If you were, like, running a series of, like, one-shot adventures or, like, single adventures, in the same campaign, that definitely would work better to have that kind of organization. Which, again...
Right. Instead of the classic, you seem trustworthy, join our adventure.
I mean, that's never a dull moment to do that. It just, you sometimes need a really great excuse for people to show up.
It's not realistic, though. If you met some random person in a dangerous temple, you're not going to be like, you seem trustworthy.
Are you sure? They did seem trustworthy.
Especially if it's like a rogue character. It's like, you seem kind of shifty.
What is it?
I'm a complete rogue. You seem trustworthy.
No, what was it? What was it? We talked about this before, I think, on our Stories from the Table, but Joe, remember, my tiefling in 4th edition and your halfling, and we run into the, like, stone person, and they're like, you two seem... I got, like, the bloody dagger I, like, drop, and you got, like, the bag of loot, which you drop, as we're, like, we hear the authorities over the wall outside the city, we just escape from, and we're like, because we kind of, like, got out and looked at each other, and I'm like, look, bag of loot, and you're, like, looking at my bloody dagger, I'm like... Yep. and then she's like, oh, hi there, folks. You seem trustworthy. Want to journey with me?
And wasn't she, like, a really good character, too?
Yes. Yes, we were horrible.
It's just like, yeah, let's get out of here. Come on.
Yes, she recruited the thief and the murderer right away. Those were the first 2 characters she recruited to her team.
And we joined because, hey, way to get out of the city. There we go.
We're totally less suspicious with her because she's truly a good character. No, I think it's the same kind of thing, though, when you're talking about adventures. It's just running into the situations where you're like, oh, why would we have these people join us? I mean, good writing can always include it in, but there are certain...
But with having the Pathfinder Society, it gives you an easy in if you don't want to have to, come up with an elaborate way or reason why this person's joining. It's just, hey, I have an official document from the Pathfinder Society that says I'm here to join you.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's definitely a good one. Or, like, you could always set it up that, like, some Pathfinder connection they have in the city is like, oh, I know this person. Here they are. They can come and join you. It does allow it a little bit easier on that level of it. And not to say that, Adventure League can't have some of that level, but I feel like there is an extra step in the Adventure League for adding everyone together, which, again, isn't necessarily a bad thing, because that having that extra step could also bring the team together a little better. I mean, when you're getting thrown together with the Pathfinder Society, you still have something that's, going on that's bringing you together, but you don't have the opportunity to before the adventure starts, usually.
Right. Well, although with the Adventure League, they could, use an excuse like the Harpers or something, bringing something like that back.
That's true. You could just basically, like, use an organization within whatever world you are that makes a similar space to the Adventure League, to the Pathfinder Society, and put it in the world where you're having the Adventure League. So there is ways of doing it, but, I think that's about what I wanted to talk about today, because, I do review a lot of the society scenarios in Gathering the Roll, because they do put out a lot of them that are easily noticeable. Why don't we move on, though, to our next big topic? I want to talk about Mindjammer and the Traveler system. Okay, so Mindjammer, I think we've talked about a little bit on this show. It is...
Yeah, we've mentioned it we've mentioned it before.
Yes. And Mindjammer, it does kind of... I don't think we've really talked about the system per se. Is one of the things I do have to say. We really haven't dived into it. The basic Mindjammer system. But apparently they've come out with a version of it using the Traveler role-playing game system. Which I kind of like is like, okay, so you have basically the same setting, but a different, like, I guess, role-playing game system for it.
Okay, and here's a strange thing with Traveler, because I'm looking at stuff. Traveler became infamous in that a character could die during the character creation process before the process was finished.
All right, then. I don't know how that happened. Oh, well, okay. I have known about systems where that can happen with, like, there's, like, certain abilities that you don't want too many of, and you get a random amount of it, and a couple of, like, really weird rolls could get you to the point in time where a character is unplayable. I've heard of systems like that, where you have to restart character creation. And so that's not, like, an impossibility, but that sounds like it's more often, I guess.
That I find it weird, and I think it would be frustrating.
No, I agree. That would be very frustrating to be like, you're in the middle
I
of...
have a great character idea. Let's start... Oh, he's dead.
Well, I think you can do stuff like that in White Wolf occasionally, too. Like, you can make a character virtually unplayable by just, like, a couple of weird choices and stuff, you know?
But that's also choices. I mean, some of this looks like it's dice rolling and stuff for some of the stuff, so it's just like, oh, I rolled this, and now I'm dead before I even started.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's interesting that they're bringing a different gaming system to it, because it looks like Traveler, it has had other systems it's worked with. So I guess the thing that's reason I really wanted to talk about this one is why. Okay.
I don't know. If you have your own system already, why merge with another one?
Yeah, that's... Well, yeah, why come out with a version of it for another?
I think it's kind of strange.
Yeah, I don't really understand it either, no. The only thing I can think about is they maybe want... They're looking to people that have the Traveler information, and they want them to play in their world setting, maybe?
Yeah.
So they
I mean, they have interesting major races. They have honor-bound felinoid.
Felinoid.
The winged reptiloid. A six-fold symmetric. I have no idea. Manipulated. They're called manipulative hybrids. A centaur-like mutant vegetarian.
Yes.
And the uplifted wolf hybrid.
Yes.
And of course, human.
Okay. Yeah, I think the original used the Fate Core rules, which I'm not... Again, I don't know both of these rules very well, because I know the Fate Core rule is a little newer. And the Traveler seems to have been around for a long time, but I'm not sure why.
Yeah, they've been making novels since 1993 based on the game.
But it's like one of those little, like, back burner role-playing game systems that I just don't hear a lot about. So, I mean, it's cool that they're using the two different systems in one way, but then it's also that confusing. Yeah, I don't know.
James, any comments?
Well, yeah, just I feel like maybe the Fate core rules are getting a bit uh, heavy-handed because I saw on the news or somewhere that they're coming up with a bunch of different Fate accelerated editions for like the Drifting vials and stuff. So maybe it's getting a bit too complex for what they wanted to do, and they saw that the Traveler was a bit simpler.
That's actually a really good reason to do it. Is if the Fate core system is definitely well, not doing a what's the word for it? Getting a little bloated. That's where that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, getting a little bloated. Then I can understand definitely taking a step away. Because I mean, there are a bunch of notable RPGs that, like as you said, the Dresden Files is one of the notable ones on that group. So, I mean,
Yeah, I guess instead of doing a total reboot for the system, just to merge with another one to make it maybe there was people wanted to really want to play that the Mindjammer scenario, but they wanted different a different rule system for it.
they wanted to avoid maybe the Fate Core's entire Fate Coreness. That seems to be happening. Well, that's actually not a bad reason for behind it. It's hard to say if that's their actual decision, but
Yeah, because
So-
you can't get into the mind of the Mindjammer.
Ooh.
Ooh.
But no, Mindjammer has always seemed like I do like a good space RPG. So space settings are always very cool. And a lot of them have taken a lot of different what's the word I'm looking for? There's different aspects of it, or different sort of basic ways to think about it, and have expressed it quite well. So I think this is definitely another good one to check out. So I guess now all I can say is, if you like Fate Core, go ahead and you're backing it. Or if you're someone that is more traveler-centric, then I guess go take a look for that. Because you can get either right now. Either a Fate Core version of it or a traveler version of the rules. Same world setting.
I think the main thing is to try Mindjammer because it's fun.
Yes.
It's fun to jam your mind.
It does remind me of some of the very sci-fi shows that I would love to play with that, but it's got its own thing rather than, that's one of those, again, I think that's one of the discussions we've had previously of, like, going into your own world or going into a world of something that's established, I think there's an argument for both of those, so. Excuse me. Why don't we move on, though, and start talking about our board game news, because guess what? We have a couple of board games we want to talk about today. Let's start with Techno Bowl. Now, James, I know that you were taking a look at it, so why don't you lead us onto the discussion of Techno Bowl?
Okay, so the arcade game is Tecmo Bowl. I don't know if anybody knows football, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna go off the assumption that you don't. So the arcade game was in the 80s, and it was kind of fun. I played an emulator of it. I'm too young to play it in the actual arcade. But they've made a Techno Bowl, like tech question mark no exclamation point. And it looks pretty fun because you don't actually need to know anything about football or positions or anything like that to play it. You just need to understand the rules of the board game. So, like, when I was watching a playthrough of it, I could recognize some of the, I'm gonna say, plays that they were doing. And like, okay, yeah, I can understand why you do that, and I also understand how the rules enable you to do that. And so I thought it was a really cool combination of football and like it's a throwback to the old arcade game, and it's a good board game. So I thought it was a good trifecta there.
Yeah, that's very cool. So it does seem like if you liked the old arcade game, or I mean, I guess if you like football, would it be interesting enough to be a football board game?
I'm definitely think it is, just because when I was reading the Kickstarter, they were giving some examples of the players' names, and they were all puns of famous football players. So if you like football, you're gonna like the names they give the players, and you're also gonna be able to uh, like understand the rules pretty easily. And if you like board games, it looks like a pretty good board game so far. So I would definitely be willing to try it just on that merit.
Okay, and now is it like two-player you'd call it, or it could
Yeah,
more than... So
it's two-player. Like both players control a team, and football has two teams on the field at one time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You can't really excuse any more people. I guess maybe if it's popular enough and they come out with more, they could do like a co-op thing where like each person controls a number of players or something. I don't know.
They could be a thing, yeah.
But so I did want to introduce this board game because it's a very interesting one. But then I want to kind of lead the topic of... Now, granted, I could always do sports board games, but I wanted to kind of focus a little bit on both that and video game board games. Basically, those are two interesting adaptations because there are sometimes parallels between sports and video games that do exist out there. You know, it is gaming in a way, just like it's tabletop gaming. So we're basically adapting another game into a game. And I guess we've seen it with other sports board games. I don't know how many sports board games I've seen, really. I think there are some more out there, but...
There are. I have two of them right here. I have Stratomatic, both football and hockey. And that's basically a system that uses the statistics for a given season, and it amalgamates it and spits out like cards that let you take control of a team and say, okay, I need to do this kind of action, and that has this percentage or this probability of succeeding.
Yeah. So definitely there are plenty of interesting sports board games out there. But, like, we're now also seeing video game board games becoming more of a thing, too. Because the fact is, like, a little while ago they came out with like a Dark Souls board game, and so now we have like, well, technically this is not really tech mobile, but it's like a parody of tech mobile, you know, it's made to feel like that. So I mean, how and this I guess is like, I guess this is really like an interesting thing because I do like the fact is yeah, and there's a WoW board game too. So I mean, come on, it's like we're getting gameception here, definitely. What do you guys think of gameception? I mean, I sometimes don't mind it. Like, there's certain games where I could say, okay, that'd be a cool board game to adapt, and I could understand it for some sports too. But I mean, like the example would be, did we really need like a rather than just a normal football game, like, you know, a football board game based upon a video game that's a football video game to a degree, so it's like game within a game within a game almost.
You're blowing my mind, man.
I know. Or for a good example is like, did we really need some kind of weird co-op Dark Souls board game? Even if it's fun, but I don't know.
I have no opinion because I do not watch football or like it in any way.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I'm sort of neutral about it. I definitely sort of take a step back from that one. The fact is, like, I have done some of the Sega Maddens back in the day, and I didn't mind those. I guess it's like when I gave the interactivity to it, I liked it better. And I think that's something I have to say about it, you know, when I was running the game. Like, now, modern day ones, I don't know so much about because they're getting more and more, like, elaborate and stuff, and I'd rather keep with the simple, like, ooh, this looks funny, this play you're giving me, I'm gonna do this, and then I do my own thing, you know? James, what do you have to talk about this side of it?
Right now I'm arguing about the Eagles having a chance.
I've noticed that you're arguing in chat with Scott about the Pats and the Eagles.
I can't really speak to the Pats because I don't follow them, but the Eagles are looking pretty good.
Ah. Oh. How are the Phillies doing?
I have no idea.
Horrible.
Horrible. Isn't that normal?
It's the only sports team that I slightly have an interest in.
And they do bad.
They have done well in the past. It's just they aren't doing well right now.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so how about on this end, since we've talked a little bit about the sports side, let's talk about the video game side. Would you think that every video game could be adapted? I don't think everyone can. I think there are certain adaptations they've done which don't work as well, and I'm gonna say they don't work as well. I saw a little bit of the Dark Souls board game, and it seemed a little interesting, but it also seemed like the kind of game I would not want to play, I have to say.
What about Mario Brothers, the board game?
Well, I mean, they've done themes of them.
Yes, but you couldn't really do a Mario board game translation.
No. Yeah, that's true. And we have had a lot of board games based on video games over the years. So it's not like, as Scott had said, the Warcraft one that existed. But there's also like a Civilization 6, the board game, or Civilization, the board game. Okay, that one?
That can make sense, though. That, you know, that can be easily turned into a resource game.
Yes, a resource management game that I could feel that would fit. There's a StarCraft board game. There was a lot of other weird ones over the years. Plenty of weird Mario ones. I think, like, in more modern things, apparently, like, there has been...
And everything Opoly.
Oh god, everything Opoly is true. Yes, everything Opoly is something I forgot all about. There's, like, the XCOM board game, which you got, which may or may not be cool.
I have it on on tabletop.
Which we should try out, yes. Yeah, I know. We should try it on Tabletop Simulator, because that one looked interesting. There's, apparently there's, like, a Witcher, a Portal, an Assassin's Creed. Like...
There's a Portal board game where it just says the cake is a lie. I haven't played it yet, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean... I don't know. Like a Bioshock Infinite, the Siege of Columbia game, too.
I don't see how you do Assassin's Creed as a board game.
Come here, Streamcat. Nice to see you. Ow! God, Streamcat claws.
It was like a Assassin's Creed arena where up to four people controlled like a group of assassins, and they like went around the city and like fought, and whoever could get out of the city in time before the guards caught them, I think they won.
Interesting.
Wow. There's Street Fighter, the deck-building card game, which seemed like a great idea also.
God.
I mean... some of these, they're like, themed after them, and it seems like an unnecessarily theme. You know? It's sort of like cash grab theme. Like... Yeah.
It's popular? Let's make something with this.
Yeah. Like the Civilization one, I'll give it to you. That seems interesting.
There's a Fallout one too.
Yeah, the Bioshock one where it's supposed to be, I guess, be like, where it's the Siege of Columbia. They say where it's battles between like the two forces, while like Elizabeth and Booker are running around. So okay, that seems like an interesting idea, you know, of going about the game. Assassin's Creed one just seems weird for me. I really would have to look into these a lot more. It seems to me...
I also had the Fallout one on Tabletop Simulator.
So, I get the feeling they're very hit and miss, kind of like deep within my soul, just looking at them. Like
It
I
also
look,
depends on how well it can be translated. Like Fallout, you could do resource management with it if you're looking at doing more of the shelters, you know?
yeah, 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 that's true. I mean, I don't know much about like Doom, the board game, or Resident Evil, the deck building game, which they're trying to do like Dominion with Resident Evil.
Interesting. It would be things we would have to try out.
But yeah, I think it's definitely trying, like, they know the fad of Assassin's Creed or Portal. Well, I'm not going to call it a fad because it's fantastic and it'll never die. But they know that those things are going to be short-lived, so they want to maximize their cash flow any way possible. And sometimes that leads to duds, and sometimes it leads to great successes. And so I think it's just something you have to keep in mind that, yes, I really like this version of it, but this version of it may be terrible. For example, it's pretty much the same with like books, because like books to movies, like The Lightning Thief, it's a young adult book, and I read it when I was like 14.
Mm-hmm.
The movie was terrible. And then there's Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, and those are really good movies. So.
And then you have Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I was disappointed in.
My mom likes the Lightning Thief movie, but I guess she never read the books.
Yeah, a lot of the people I talked to who've seen Hitchhiker's Guide the movie and never read the books like the movie, but most people who've read the books are like,
So, I mean, that's another thing that we can talk about on this layer, is that the fact is its adaptations of anything can go hit or miss. And I guess board game adaptations of video games and or sports are just the same. They can be very hit or miss.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind the Hitchhiker's movie, but then again, I didn't read the book. So...
I tend to read the book like once a year.
Okay.
Well, the book series, I should say, once a year.
So you're familiar with it very
Very hell?
very well.
Yes. I know it pretty well, pretty much inside and out. And it's just some of the stuff that they changed for the movie. Some of the stuff was okay. A lot of it I didn't like. So,
see, and I think that gets into a lot of bit of opinions on how things are adapted too for people. So I guess that's another reason that these things keep on going too, because it's as long as enough people feel like it's a great adaptation, they're going to enjoy it. So, interesting. That's a very interesting discussion we've gone through here. It kind of led down an interesting rabbit hole, I have to say. But why don't we move on, though? Because I do want to talk about the next topic. So, runebound. Runebound is a competitive board game, but now they've released a new addition to it called Unbreakable Bonds, because I'm trying to forget that name. And the fact is, it opens up for co-op gameplay and single-player gameplay. So, I guess you were always supposed to have, like, competitive... one-on-one battles in Runebound. I'm not as familiar with the Runebound board game myself. I've heard of it, but I have not played Runebound. James, have you had a chance to play Runebound? You play a lot more board games than the rest of us.
Thanks, I think.
Well, that's because your family are heavily into board games in general, too.
Yeah, much more so than the rest of our families.
I've gotten the chance to watch half of it played. It was on Showcase at one of the things I went to go to, and I think it was basically kind of like a board game version of. I hesitate to say this, but of D&D, because it's like you take control of a hero and you just walk around and it's like, oh, look, a quest. You need to do this and this and this, and the other players are all doing quests at the same time, and then you kind of like try and kill the big bad guy before the other players. And so the idea of a cooperative one, I think, just kind of makes it uh, even even better. Just because I always thought the goal of defeating a big bad was to work together and not just become so powerful you can do it yourself. So I kind of like this change.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting change, because I guess before it was sort of like every hero for themselves.
Kind of like Dragon Farkle.
I don't know what that is.
I know the name, but I can't remember the game.
It's a dice game where you're all trying to like slay this dragon,
Oh, yes, I remember.
you're trying to be the one who does it, and you have to kind of screw over other players while building up your army to be able to defeat the dragon.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely interesting to allow you to gather together a sort of a group. I don't know what their kind of co-op gameplay is. I don't know if it's like if it's like a number versus the board, or if it's like 2-on-2 kind of things. But also adding in the single player element, because I think we've talked about this a little bit before, that having a single player element to a game can be really helpful, because sometimes you just can't find people. And having like a setup where you can play basically by yourself the game might be really fun, and it might basically add to your situation. It's like, it's a more advanced version of solitaire. People do play solitaire, which is, on your own, the basic card game. So having something you could just pull out and you don't feel like, and it feels like it's fun enough. Like, there's certain single player board games that I don't know if I would do on my own, like Arkham Horror, because you can technically play that single player, but that seems like a terrible idea.
Pretty sure that's the equivalent of when you're in a horror movie and you're like, you know what, we're gonna split up.
We're gonna split up, gang.
Yeah. Don't split the party.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely one of the setups that I do like. More options of games that seem different enough, and hopefully with the expansions, the setups work well. So, I mean, runebound seems like an interesting game to begin with. I mean, I always like a good adventuring game anyway, and putting together one where you could basically play taking something that is competitive and making it co-op. It's fun. So, is there anything else you guys want to say about that?
I got nothing else, really.
Alright, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure you got nothing else, as you guys argue on Skype, because that keeps popping up on my screen.
I would like to say something, actually. Because the solo games that I've seen, there's like no good middle ground. It's like either it's like Friday, where you just like flip cards and do stuff that way, or there's games that require tons of setup, tons of takedown, and you spend 3 hours to take one turn. And so this might be a good in between, because I haven't really seen that yet.
Yeah, so I mean, that's one of those things, is like, I guess a game that takes a lot of setup, you almost don't want to play that single player, because I mean, it's like taking you forever to do it. You want a game that if you're doing single player, you could quickly throw it out there and do it. That's, I guess, why another reason that Arkham Horror is something that I wouldn't do single player, because it has so much setup to it. And any game like that just sort of scares you away, I guess is a good way of saying it. It keeps you from being like, is my like extra hour of work on either ends of this worth it? For something that I'm probably going to get beat up and lose over, basically. I also feel that's like, there's just certain games that work better as single player and others that do not. And so I'm curious how they set up runebound. I am very curious. That maybe it's like, maybe it gives you like a turn, like a certain amount of turns to do things and like go on adventures for. So you have like a time limit or something, and you're trying to get scenarios that way. I don't know. I could see ways you can do it, that you can play with yourself doing the game from what you've said about it, but it's hard to say which they've done. All right, why don't we move on to our last main topic for today? I want to talk about Deadline. I know. Well, at first when I heard this, I thought like newspaper and reporters and stuff, but it turns out to be 1930s New York detectives. So 2 to 4 players that kind of work together to solve cooperative cases. And basically there's like 12 main cases that they have in the basic game. And you're sort of trying to find information about them, discover what's going on. I'm unsure of the replayability because they are like... I don't know how the cases are set up. The cases might be set up in a way that they are replayable. They might be set up in a way that they tend not to be. That's something I'm definitely unsure of just by the basic information I've been able to find out about it. You know... But
yeah, it looks like each case has its own book and solution book and sets of questions. So it does seem like maybe after you solve a case, it may not be as replayable.
Yeah, which I think we've talked about, you know, a general replayability factor in games like this that can exist, but is more of a difficult thing, and depends on who you're playing with. You know, I think that's definitely one of those things. It seems like 12 cases, case book, question book, solution book, 8 detective cards, 65 lead and plot twist cards. Okay, so I think since we have
so there's plot twists and leads, yeah, that might make it more playable.
Yeah, and maybe the case might not necessarily have the same results. It might have a similar setup, but it might have like a different like who the murderer is. This is definitely a game I want to check out at least.
I love the noir style. I've always been a fan of that.
Oh no, yeah, and it's definitely an interesting time. Yeah, the noir style is definitely really cool, and it's supposed to be very like hard-boiled crime investigation. It seems really cool. Now, granted, I'm unsure about the general... what I have to say about it is the general price point for the material getting, I'm kind of middle ground if it's really worth it, depending on it. I know we have, like, Time Stories you got, which is has very little replayability and is like, maybe the same price, maybe a little bit more.
Mine was, I think Time Stories was a little bit more, but around the same range. This one's like a little under 40.
But then you get 12 investigations.
Yeah.
So I mean that might be an advantage in this case.
True. I just have to say I'm looking at the character names.
Mm-hmm.
The best one is Tracer Shot.
Okay.
Alright.
Wow. Yeah. Is that supposed to be like a Dick Tracy?
He kind of looks like a bit like Dick Tracy. He's kind of in like a yellow hat and trench coat.
Yeah.
So I think he might be a Dick Tracy-esque character.
No, and I like how they have like a very interesting selection of characters, you know.
And they balanced it between men and women. It's four females, 4 male characters.
Yeah. And like I feel like they all do hint at characters of something, you know. They're very like it's really hard to tell where they are.
The artwork definitely looks, you know, like 30s, 40s noir.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like Pete Lorre reminds me a lot more of like Columbo or something, you know, kind of character.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And Dash Hamlet. I like Dash Hamlet. Hammett. Whatever. Next to Eve Gardner.
He kind of looks like a professor.
Yes. And I like how they do have all special abilities, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Like street cards, the case book, solution book, case questions. Interesting. There's definitely a lot of interesting. There's like a lot of components to this game that make it look really cool. Deadline looks very interesting. It's definitely something I want to check out. I mean, it's. You know, it's the kind of game. It's the game that's attracting me to be like, oh, I should get this. This is cool. It kind of is.
Yeah, there's a game called Sherlock Holmes, where basically your Sherlock Holmes is a band of orphans. and you get like 10 cases, but after those 10 cases, the replayability is basically gone. So I would just be worried about that. But again, time throws is one case, and then you're done. So
Yeah, which then you have to buy. You can buy additional cases, but they're not cheap. They're I think $20 a pop.
yeah.
So, like,
But what about Sherlock Holmes?
oh my god. The amount of Sherlock Holmes material, I'm glad they haven't come out with it for like 4 months now. I'm so glad the plague of Sherlock Holmes has ended. Thank you, game developers. We had enough for a while there that you were all coming out with Sherlock Holmes and or Sherlock Holmes adjacent time period stuff, like Jack the Ripper stuff too. Sherlock Holmes, Jack the Ripper, all of it, all at once. Now they're fortunately and they had no reason to. We were all talking about maybe something was coming out. Nothing came out. There was no reason for them all to be at the same time. Streamcat's returned.
Yes, we hear his arrival.
Her arrivals, but still.
I'm sorry, her arrival. Sorry.
She's a good kitty.
There she is.
Meow.
I will see you tonight, Streamcat.
I'm Streamcat. Meow meow meow. Meow 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 meow.
Maybe Streamcat wants to play Sherlock.
Probably. You were just on my lap and got down, so I'm gonna get rid of you this time. Yeah, don't complain all you want. She's very complaintive. Well, she's very vocal. But no, I do like, because I don't think we have a lot of actual games that are like set like in the detective noir series, like Caesar's. As James was saying, there is like a whole bunch of Sherlock Holmes games, which are those kind of detective stories. But how many do we get like the classic noir detective feel?
Yeah, more, the American detective.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely would like to see some more of them, which we haven't yet. But I think, why don't we move on to our final segments? We're going to be a little shorter today, though, I think, but, I mean...
Oh, I just want to point one thing out that I just noticed that's really cool. Like, the plot twist and cards and stuff, they actually, like, have pictures from the time period on them.
Well, that's really cool.
Things that happened.
That's really cool.
I really like that added bonus there.
Yeah, and the art style is very, very reminiscent of like the classic art style for detective stories and stuff too. So I think that's really it really captures a lot with it.
Thank you, WizKid Games.
You did manage to get something very interesting, and I like how like there's little bullets and like
you got your badge
and matchsticks kind of things.
Yes, the little matchstick pack things, the little tokens that look like matchstick packs. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, they go for a lot of interesting details for this one. They really do.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we move on for stories from the table? So there's one story I want to tell, which I can add in.
No, you're not allowed.
Okay, but James, do you have anything? James, do you have anything you want to share today for a story from the gaming table?
I usually wait until I hear inspiration, then draw one that's similar. So, Joe, you go first.
Matt, why don't you start?
Okay, I wanted to finish up our story for Curse of Strahd, because guess what? I finished up the game. I did sort of plot summary the end of it, because we lost pretty much down to 2 players, and, we had been working on that for so long, and I was adding a little extra stuff to the end. I think when we last left off, they may have... I don't know if
I'm no longer a blue sheep.
I don't know if we talked about the blue sheep.
Yes, we did.
We did? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah. They managed to do things like resurrect a silver dragon, save some people, figured out what they were going to do, allied with this one guy that was their old friend, now a werewolf vampire, who they thought may or may not have been working for Strahd. They went on adventures to gather up some armies and materials to battle against Strahd, as there was now an army of devils attempting to be summoned, along with who's allied with a necromancer summoning a lot of undead, who is all going against Strahd. Yes, necromancer versus Strahd seems like a really weird thing. So, I mean, sometimes my inspiration for writing is not is kind of weird. Anyway, there totally was this siege of Vallaki with armies and betrayal, because it turns out that the guy that turned into a vampire werewolf was really the lord of the undead.
James!
Lord of the undead and devils, who allied with them and was going to betray Strahd. And so, in the end, defeat him, steal Strahd and a sword, save all of Ravenloft kind of thing, theoretically. But there are more Dread Realms out there, and who knows how long he'll stay in that sword.
You almost said Barovia, didn't you?
I was going to say Barovia because it technically is the country of Barovia.
Yes.
It is the land of Barovia that is dove into the Dread Realms, but Ravenloft is the term as a whole.
Yes.
So, that's why I wanted to sort of switch that around. But no, more Dreadlords, more terror to do so. But I think we're moving on to new games tonight, which will be fun.
Yes. And here comes it, instead of a elven wizard, or no, sorcerer, it's going to be an Orid hunter. Because
Yes.
we're also going from D&D to Pathfinder.
Yep, we're going to do Pathfinder games. So there'll be updates on... And I'm going to... Okay, so I probably haven't announced it. I do want to run a game on my Twitch channel here, Pathfinder Abridged Adventures. I'm going to be testing that out here, where I take Pathfinder Adventure Path, and I basically cut it down a little bit to its nitty-gritty, to the important parts of it, so we can speed the story along a little bit. So rather than like a year long of gameplay, maybe a month, or maybe 2 or 3 months is my goal. I don't know if it's going to end up that way. I'm going to try to aim for 3 or 4 sessions at most on the adventure path, on each adventure. I'll have to see how each ends up though being. So we'll see. It'll be fun. James, you or Joe have anything else to add in for adventuriness?
My chimes are going, so I'm gonna mute myself and let Joe go.
I didn't know we were going to be doing this today. So, well, normally you end up just asking the guest anymore.
I know, because, it's been a lot easier than, because we went through a lot of our early stories on, the thing, and it's hard to remember which ones we did. I've got to, come up with a list of which stories we told.
I guess I could, since you mentioned an end of game,
Uh-huh.
I could mention a very interesting end of game one.
Mm-hmm.
I think we touched the subject a bit, but when we blew up the moon, which is also, what goddess was it? Selune?
Yeah, Selune.
So we blew up the moon / Selune.
Yep.
Shot the Tarask into outer space.
Yep.
Which it's still living somewhere, floating in space. Maybe we'll land on another planet.
Yes.
And best reward of all, we all became gods because we killed half the freaking Pantheon.
Yeah.
And there was a power vortex then.
Well, technically, Slatherkel, the Kraken wizard... No, I'm sorry, sorcerer, because Chad thought he was stupid if he had a spell book, because he's a 20th level wizard Kraken in actual Faerun lore. But he made him a sorcerer. Figured out a way to merge with Dagon and the Umbral Blot into some kind of super being, and then absorb godly power. And then basically we crawled along and basically disrupted power in his core, which is connecting.
That was because we sent Slatherkel there.
No. We trapped him in the Far Realm
trapped him in the Far Realm, and then he found a way to merge with the Umbral Blot.
Well, he was in battle with the Umbral Blot and Dagon at the same time, and the three of them merged together, and then we disrupted their merge point and basically caused them to collapse in on themselves, because the Umbral Blot is basically a living sphere of annihilation from 3rd edition that we brought into Pathfinder. Yeah, yep. Construct Sphere of Annihilation is a great idea. Someone at D&D thought it was a great idea. Someone at Wizards back in 3rd edition was like, this is a great idea.
A living Sphere of Annihilation.
I'm curious as to if it's showed up in any other edition is my thing. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Alright, well, you look that up. I'm gonna tell a story.
Okay.
Um, so I was running a game, and I really wanted to kill my players. It was a strange feeling, let me tell you. So we were playing with a group that we had like formed in high school, and so one of the players was experimenting with some new spells that he had found, and there's one that transports him and like anybody near him to like a fey realm that's kind of just all like happy-go-lucky, and um, it was really weird. Couldn't really wrap my head around it. So I put them on the ship. They were filling off everything. I sent to them, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? There's a kraken. It's just gonna be a kraken there. He'll kill you. You can make new characters. It's fine. So the kraken brought down the ship, and the wizard cast this one spell that transports it and everything near it into the fair realm. And the problem was that he was 20 feet under the surface of the ocean. So the Fey realm was quickly inhabited by a kraken, and B, a lot of water. And so it said in the spell it's like a mile up from the surface of the Fey world. The water quickly filled it up, and he could float out, and the kraken was kind of just like gallivanting between the worlds. And then he eventually ended the spell while it was in the Fey world. So he's A, not using that spell again, and B, a jerk for evading my death trap.
Okay, I found out the Umbral Blot and or Black Ball, as it's also called, originated in second edition. But it was very different in second edition, as it had no hit points and had an AC of 10. It was basically indestructible in second edition, and it was just more of a hazard worth a lot less experience points, because you didn't actually have to defeat it, like you did in third edition. They basically were like, you know what, this sounds like something more epic. We're gonna make it more epic. I guess I understand that.
Well, it's pretty much a living black hole.
Yeah. Fun with Umbral Blot. Alright, so cool. We got some good stories in. I wanted to share with everyone the question. Okay, I'm sorry. So that was our big thing of stories from the table. Let's go on to Gaming Stage Advice, because I actually have a really good question for today that I did want to ask. What
will be the judge of that?
Okay. What genre do you want to see in board games or role-playing games? How about that one? What genre that we haven't seen a lot of? There might be like one or two games or something, but there hasn't been a big representation of it that you think we need more in either a board game or a card or like a role-playing game. Because as we talked about, there was, the genre of Deadline doesn't show up in board games a lot.
Actually, that would be what I would say would be I would love to see more noir stuff in both role-playing and board games. I mean, the game I created is somewhat in that genre.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it more.
And I mean, there is a 1930s sort of style one done by the same people who do Earthdawn, but that's more Indiana Jones, That's more like...
Yeah, I would love to do more like a detective one like that.
That's more pulp, and noir and pulp are kind of same time period, but very different genres.
Pulp's more 40s into 50s, where noir's more 30s into 40s.
Yeah, that was I think the difference is too. Oh, excuse me. James.
So noir is my answer. James?
Are you, like, when I think of genre, I'm thinking like movie genre and book genre.
Yeah, probably close to that, yeah.
Alright, because, have you guys ever played Monty Python Flux?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very funny game, and usually when I play board games, I don't laugh a lot. Like, other people can like say things that are funny in the moment, but the game itself isn't inherently funny. So maybe something more along the lines of that, because Monty Python is funny because it references Monty Python. and it also leads to more humorous interactions. So maybe something in a comedic realm.
So yeah, actually, I do agree with you. I don't
Cards
think...
Against Humanity.
But I mean, for like a role-playing game, how many humorous role-playing games, how many comedies do we actually see a lot of?
Not a lot, but we reported on one like a month ago.
Yeah, well, I think that one was like a type of comedy. It's like, I guess, what I think...
That one was like a silly game in general.
Yeah, I think the kind of comedy that James is talking about is more like situational. Because Monty Python is very much more situational comedy. You know, it's like something happens and then something silly happens in amongst it that, you know, gets you laughing. You know, or something weird happens.
I can think of a situation that happened in a fun silly game we had.
Well, I mean...
You got shrunk.
Well, yeah, well, that's an entirely different thing. There was multiple games where people were shrinking that were silly games. I do have to say, though, just on that entire concept there. And for me, though, it was like I thought of this question, and I don't think there's a huge amount that I can really say off the top of my head I can think of, because like I was trying to go through like various genres that exist, and many of them really have some kind of representation. But I think there's one, which I don't know if I could call it a genre, but like a type of game, maybe. I would love to see more like a modern or futuristic sea exploration or something, or like undersea base or something, you know? We don't see a lot of that. We see space, but we don't see modern / futuristic water.
Under the sea.
Yeah, and that's the only one I could really think of off the top of my head for this one, because there's plenty of like
a modern what is it, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
or like Sequest, if you're talking futuristic, or like if you're going for movies, something like The Abyss, was it?
Hey, wait, we could combine yours and James's genres and have Sequest 2021 the role playing game,
or a board game. Yes.
Or board game.
Yes, but then you'd have to get Hanna-Barbera's permission, and they might be jerks. No, yes. I think those are very interesting genres that we could see, or well, interesting genre / settings that we could definitely see. I think there are other genres out there, like just thinking about it, like certain subgenres I don't feel like have had as main a push forward as others, you know, and I think that's where we can try to find some of them. Like main genres, they usually have pretty good accepting of them. Other ones, maybe not so much, definitely. You know, I would love to see some, like, if we're going for, like, Gentleman Thief kind of thing, which is, like, an entirely different kind of thing, which is more of a subgenre of, like, detective stuff and things like that. Like, things like, if you're looking, like, animes like Lupin the Third, that one, I think, would make, or something, a similar setting where you have, like, you know, thieves and detectives sort of going against each other. I think that would be pretty interesting. And that's still, like, I don't think that's a main genre in a way. That's, like, more of a subgenre that we can sort of talk about. So when we're talking about subgenres even, I think there are a lot of them that could be added into this, that maybe some more representation out there would be cool. You know? All right.
Yeah.
So people out there, creators, let's get some more board games and role-playing games of interesting genres and places. Maybe I'll have some myself at some point in time, you know? Alright, that seems like something banning. I should probably ban that.
Yeah, I was just about to try that myself. But I will let you.
Don't respond, Joe.
I didn't.
It's
James.
I didn't do it right. Damn it. I have to get used to it. Oh, it's /ban. There we go. Fixed. Fixed weird people that show up and do some kind of thing in my chat. I think there's rules of chat somewhere around under my information. Please look at them. Oh, wait. How about this? Or is it rule? Dang it! You know, I rarely use this one.
It says be nice to each other, don't be rude, don't say anything you wouldn't want said to you. Keep the language clean. How is he breaking any of the rules?
Alright. Oh, and I also have, Dave. There we go!
Yes.
Cool. Excellent. Excellent. So that's what it is. The rules are there, and I've got a behave kind of thing. But just weird people showing up and doing some kind of, I don't know, threat into space? You go away now. Bye-bye. Alright, everybody, I think that's a pretty good show for today. I think we had a great time. We went over some interesting information. You know, we talked about a little odd, cool games. And I thank my guests for being here. And, of course, I thank Joe for normally being here. I thank James for being able to join us at short notice because we needed to... We lost our folks that we could get. We didn't really get any extra. James, do you have anything to promote at all, or not really?
I do. You guys should all drink Snapple. I've been drinking it throughout the entire broadcast. So.
If we're sponsoring, I'm sponsored by water. It's everywhere. Joe?
Even in my raccoon wounds.
Indeed, it even is in your raccoon wounds.
My usual promotions is promoting you.
Yeah.
Watch this guy.
Yep. I think we're gonna have we're scheduled for Treasure Lost Legion from we're gonna start 4 to 5 tomorrow. That's the aiming right now. I'll have to see when I can get home from trip. You know, been a lot of delays on my end, and things are going on in the background of Treasure Lost Legion. We'll let you know what's going on when we figure it out with the schedule. With a lot of people.
We've been a bit lost.
Yeah, we have been a little lost. So if things have to change around, We'll figure it out and let you know. I theoretically am going to continue with Civ 6 tomorrow evening. I have to check in and make sure Winter Bear and Ollie are good to go, and we'll get back to our Civ 6 game. I'm scheduled for Subnautica for Monday, a little bit more Fallout New Vegas on Wednesday. No idea about Thursday. I'm probably going to have to get new headphones, so if something gets canceled, it's because of headphone problems. More than likely right now, I'll let you know. They're working at the moment, and I'm hoping they stay working, but judging that on Thursday they stopped, working entirely, that was a problem, you know? So I do need new ones, finally. They're finally dying. Videos will be up on the channel. I'm going to be uploading at least 3 today. Try to get a few more out. Other than that, I think we're good to go. So... James, I am not buying headphones off of you.
I bought 2 by accident, so you can have one.
I think other than that, I guess we're good to go today, and I hope everybody had a great time at the show, and I hope you join us again next week, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a couple of guests lined up. I can probably announce. Let me just check the dates on people, because I should have had this prepared ahead of time. Okay, we're getting the someone that worked on the Mystic role-playing game system, which we talked about previously. He's going to be on to help talk us about Mystic and making your own role-playing system. We've got a returning guest of the Orcish Librarian, who we had on previously. He's coming back on. So we got a couple of guests already lined up. Maybe we'll get someone else indeed. And we'll see what we roll from there. Sounds cool, everybody? Sounds cool. So thanks. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the show, which we talked about a bunch of random, tabletop-related stuff, and had a great time. So see you all next week. And James, thank you for being on again. We'll hope to have you on once again someday in the future. Maybe we can make... You're a nice returning guest. But bye, everyone.
Bye.